All right. Welcome, everyone. Those of you who haven't been before, this is the second Around the World in 80 Rocks, Fossils, and Formations. And this is the third series I've done like this. The first was trees, the second was critters, and then we decided to do rocks. And I don't think you guys are going to let me stop. So I'm not sure what we'll do next. All right. A little bit of housekeeping. Make sure you're muted, turn off your own video to help with the bandwidth. And if you have any questions, please, if there's something like you can't see what I'm doing or there's something weird, please say it out loud. Go ahead and turn on your mic. Don't use the chat for that because I can't monitor the chat while I've got the multiple video and slideshow up. All right, well, I'm going to jump right in so we can get started. Well, welcome Around the World in 80 Rocks, Fossils, and Formations. North America, Part 2. I'm Roseann Hanson. I run my own Exploring Overland Field Arts Institute. My husband and I are authors, naturalists, explorers. I've written several nature journaling books, and we launched our new magazine last year, Exploration Quarterly. Thank you. I see a lot of subscribers here today. Thank you. Here's a little reminder that we talked about last time, geology reminders, or what is a rock? Rocks are made up of minerals. Minerals are made up of elements such as iron, magnesium, calcium, silicon, etc. Minerals become rocks through formation processes in the earth. And think of minerals as cooking ingredients and rocks as the finished dish. Great quote. And then we all probably remember most of this, that there are three major rock types based on those processes: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. So we'll be looking at most of those today. And then just because we have to see Snoopy, living in the desert isn't all bad. There's beautiful scenery and good conversation. Hi, Rock. I love that. All right. Well, we are going to the Oregon coast. That star was a little bit off. Sorry about that. And this is what we're hunting for today. This is Scott Sutton. He's digging up fossilized or mineralized pine cones, and inside is Vivianite. Oh, I know, be still my heart, you guys. I really want to go look for these. Pretty incredible. Now, it's found on the Oregon coast. There's the chemical formula. So a lot of iron and hydrated iron. So you see all the H2O. And and also phosphorus. It's a phosphate mineral. And pure Vivianite is colorless, but it quickly oxidizes when it reaches the atmosphere to blue or even green prismatic. Oh, that would be amazing. These ones are fossilized cone concretions. And the Vivianite is often associated with decaying things like this wood, organic matter, phosphate-rich environments, is where it often occurs in peat bogs and clay beds. There's a really cool muskox, I believe, in Alaska that was found that was its bones are partly replaced by Vivianite, and it's in the Museum of Alaska in Fairbanks. All right, this is super soft. Mohs 1.5 to 2 out of 10 on the Mohs scale. And it was used as a pigment is used as a pigment since the Roman times. Vermeer used it in the Procurus. So oops, not that one. We're going to go and start our drawing here. And you guys let me know verbally if you can't see well. I'm going to start with a little bit of, actually on this one, I'm going to go straight to ink. And I'm going to draw the slice and then also probably just put a little reference of the fossilized cone. And it didn't say what species these were, but those doesn't that look like fir? Somebody knows. Is that a Doug fir cone that he's got there, possibly? Okay. Well, I'm going to sketch freehand just the outer part. It's okay if you're a little messy. There's a bloop there anyway. And, this is a crust. It's obviously got an inner and outer kind of a rind. And just go loose and easy and put in some cracks and occlusions and things. Looks like there's actually like a bump there. I'm using waterproof ink, so I'll be able to go quickly straight to watercolor this uh, I just forgot the name of it. The ink is carbon. Yeah, platinum carbon. Okay, and then what I'll do, let's see, this is number one. Don't forget to label. And this is Vivianite. And we'll put more information here. And I think right down here, I'll do just like, these were kind of like sausage shaped. This is reference. So it's a fossilized cones, a cone, and we're not sure exactly what species. And what we'll do is, so if we can say we put a slice there, and that's what it is, cut in half. And then we can mix some really pretty blue. I've got my colors here. Those of you who know, I just use a very basic, true primary triad of a cyan, a magenta, and a yellow. My cyan is manganese blue, and quinacridone rose for the magenta, and aureolin yellow for the yellow. And then I have, burnt sienna and indanthrone blue, really, really dark blue. These two together are really useful. You can make blacks and shadows and grays, and it's really, really a useful. Now let's see, make sure I get some water here. I'm going to put in a light blue layer. There's my, it's almost that color. I'll just want to bump it just a little, but it's a really beautiful color. I'm going to go light for a first layer. Right up to the rind. Use, I think, a cobalt blue or any blue will do, but you want it to be fairly rich. However, my first pass is going to be light because then I'm going to take advantage of, adding shadows and things with a darker pass. And then while that's doing its thing, let's put just take a little burnt sienna. And I'm going to create kind of a really dirty yellow here with burnt sienna to make that kind of taupey color. Not taupe, it's kind of flesh color. I just find the burnt sienna very useful for loads of different things. And then darken it up in spots. It looks like it's got some, it's got iron, remember, in that core. So you're going to see the reddish iron, the oxidation. So that fills that up. I'm going to take a tiny bit of indanthrone in here. It's a darker blue, but I'm going to brighten just a little bit to get that more of that Vivianite color. It would be fun if you have Vivianite in your palette. Wouldn't that be fun? And then let's get that wet again with clear. And then drop in some of this dark just to give it some, it's not monochromatic, is it? It's got lots of wavies, and so that'll help make that look more cool. The outside of this was that kind of brown, dirty color. So we'll start building that up, or just leave it as a line drawing. That's fine too. Looks like that one cleaned up. When you picked it up, they were all gnarly. Doesn't have as much brown, so you could do it either way. I'm gonna fix that. Oops. So you can see the cone patterns, the scales. Look at that. So if you wanted to, you could blow that up as a feature, which would be kind of cool. Or now this is damp, which is actually not a bad thing, because what I'm going to do is sketch in these little cone textures, and the dampness means it's going to spread nicely. So Vivianite is hydrated iron. And I'm not going to write the entire formula out right now. That would take me a long time, but it's colorless until it oxidizes. And often associated with, let's say, bones, decaying wood, and phosphate-rich environments. Okay. I'm going to hit that with just a little bit more of the dark blue now that it's drying nicely. Yeah, that's looking nice. When it's done, I'll come back and add more fissures and things. So let's leave that to dry as we move to our next. I think that looks good. Come back and refine the, just add, you can come back with your pen. Oh, while I've got that blue, I just noticed this has blue running up there. So you can come back with your pen. This is still too wet right now, but even when it's wet, if you want it to run a little bit, and then just add some more texture and interest, as you will. Like so. This is really damp. I'm going to see what it does if I drop the ink in there. Yeah, I like that. Just a little bit. All right, let that dry. Now let's see where we're going next in North America. Now we are heading to Wyoming, and this is courtesy Daniel Judkins. Daniel, I don't know if you're here, Dan. Thank you for sending this in. This is so much fun. So this
Yes, I'm
Oh,
here.
yay. I'm so glad. I had so much fun with this. Thank you for sending. So we're going to dive into this. This is what I really liked about this is Dan sent me this paper and this information. And what he noticed being down here in Arizona, that the rendition of the Edmontosaurus, which is what this fossil is from, reminded him so much of the desert spiny lizard with the coloration. And you can really picture that, right? With these dinosaurs. I loved that. So what this is, Dan told me, is a caudal vertebra. So that's from the tail. And Dan, you can correct me if I've got this wrong. So and a centrum is the yeah, is that right?
Yes, the centrum is the main part of the vertebrae.
Yeah.
And what you're pointing to right there is one of the spinous processes that
Yep.
stick. And where the lady is standing, you can see there's some longer spinous processes,
Yep.
dorsal going up and that sort of.
Nice. And so Dan collected this with permission from haha, the Hanson Ranch, no relation, um, and at the Hanson Ranch Research Center. So there's your it's 4 centimeters tall, 5.5 side to side, and the centrum is 5 centimeters from the anterior to the posterior. Super cool. And let me move my talking head here. Um, this is the Edmontosaurus annectens, a hadrosaur or duck lizard, they call it, an herbivorous saurolophine hadrosaurid from the end of the Cretaceous. So 3 million years before the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs. So that's 68 to 66 million years ago. And this was found in what's called the Lance Formation, which was formerly a bayou landscape near a delta, river delta in eastern Wyoming today. Um, and fossils form from ground when minerals from the groundwater seep into and replace organic material. In this case, it was found in sedimentary rock, sandstone shale, siltstone, lignite is common in this area. So we're going to draw the caudal vertebra. And this is not going to let me go. I keep losing that. There we go. And I'm going to put this right down here. I'm good. Oh, if you could mute, I think, Dan, you might be unmuted, so you might want to mute yourself again. Um, I'm going to put this down here, but I'm going to sketch it in pencil just briefly first, so I try to get my proportions right. Um, so
Roseann, could you zoom in, please, on the
yeah, I
vertebra?
forgot. Thank you. Just looked up and saw that. It's like, I can't see it either. Great. Okay. So I'm going to roughly sketch just a square first. So I kind of get that right. And then, oh, okay. So you want to mute whoever, just make sure you're muted. All right. And then from there, what we want to do is let's get this protrusion here sketched up, because that's kind of our anchor. It's kind of a broken piece, it looks like, and then it comes down. And just use a dotted line for where it fades into the bone, or fossil now, but formerly the bone. Okay. And then we're going to come up here. It's kind of roundy. Now let's bring that shape in. kind of got this a little too far off to the side. I think we're going to be okay once we get the shading in. So you want to show there's a plane right here or a change in the surface and also kind of a knob right here. So we're using dotted lines. And then this gets kind of sloped. I'm going to pull that in maybe a little bit more than it's showing, just so I can emphasize the feature here. This has a sharp edge there, and then it's softer here. So you want to try to show that with some shading. And then this comes down, and we've got a bulb kind of there. And there's more as this comes down, it sort of joins this for another shape here we want to try to show. And then using just subtle direction just to remind us, we're not even going to probably keep that, but that helps us as we're shading. And I think water-soluble charcoal would be really useful here. I've never drawn a fossil before, so this is a first. Just playing with the textures here and shading. And then if you have it, I don't know if you all, I have this little tools that I keep in my bag. Ah, yes. If you're using graphite, you can use a shading stump if you want to use it to help shade your fossil, and that's really useful. See, we can get some direction going here. And then just use it to create some texture. Didn't quite get that structure right. It's good practice. I haven't done this in such a long time. And then if you wanted to emphasize, do some shadow around it, again, the water-soluble graphite's a great tool. So if this is, we're looking at it lying down, let's get this, just put some hard line there. And then the shadow. And it's kind of proud on that side, so that's the shadow there. And we can throw some water down and see if you've not used water-soluble graphite. It's so useful. So it's basically pulverized graphite that is mixed with the watercolor medium. So I can play with this hard edge here a little bit more. See if I can get that to pop a little better. Okay. That worked a little better. And then I think I could refine this better with some more pencil work or pen work. And I don't even need to go to watercolor here. That it's not my favorite, but I think with some practice, we can get better at sketching fossils. I wanted to get some information on here as well. So this is number 2. And this is our Edmontosaurus. Anectens fossil. And this is the caudal, right? Caudal vertebra. And it is, so fossils form, so this is what we wanted to learn about this. Fossils form when minerals in the groundwater replace organic matter. So a lot like the Vivianite, but this takes a lot longer. Oops. And it's found in, this one was found in the Lance Formation. In Wyoming, eastern Wyoming. And he is known as a hadrosaur, he or she. Or the duck lizard. Cool. From the end of the Cretaceous. So practicing our shading and sketching and proportions will be really important to get these when you're sketching fossils in the field. And it's really fun, especially when maybe you see one embedded, you don't take them. Dan was working with the center and had permission, so he was able to collect it, but that's why we want to learn to draw them, because that way we can take them home in our notebooks.
Would you move the picture over to show the dinosaur? Thanks.
Sure. And this will be in the recording as well, or take a screenshot right now if you want to keep working on it, because we're going to be moving on. All right, now we're going to keep
Thank
going
you.
though. Sure. Because there's a lot still to do. All right. I was really heavily in the West this time. I just couldn't help it. I am from the West and I have a lot of images from around here. So here we are. This is a photo from a trip I took. This is really interesting. So those of you who've seen Southern Colorado, Central Colorado, will recognize these. This is Alamosa Canyon. This is part of a huge old caldera, volcanic crater formation, huge. Where I am is along this road here, from Platero to Jasper. And this is what the landscape looks like. It's wild and gorgeous. And those are iron rich scree slopes. So that's what we're going to draw because it's time to practice more of these formations that we see frequently in our travels. So what we're going to do, and what I liked about this picture is this gives you a good hint on how to tackle this really complex landscape. It's really easy to get sideways when you're trying to capture landscapes formations. You tend to just kind of get bogged down in way too much detail. So what we're going to do is focus on the shapes here, and the trees then we'll add last. So what I'll do is I'm going to get that main plum up here. And just to give myself some.
We don't see you drawing, Roseann.
Thank you. Nice. I completely forgot to switch over. Okay. There we go. So you see now, draw your, you guys were like, out with the program. Okay. Let's get that shape. Want to get that really nailed, the shape. So a little steeper than that. Okay, bring that down. And then there's another one. And I'm not going to draw that completely because in here, get your front slope here. See how I'm just doing those shapes? Not doing it super hard. Maybe I'll draw a little bit harder than I normally would so you can see them. I don't usually like to do that. Now let's go in here and add those scree shapes. You've got, just do like an M here. And then pull like a trapezoid there. Another kind of trapezoid there. And then a not really defined shape there. Then up here, you're going to do another, just do another M and let that peter out like that. Looks weird right now, but we're going to refine those with color, or define, excuse me. I drew those harder than I normally would so you could see. So hopefully they won't show too much in when I do the final. So let's get our color out and get this going. Where are we? I'm going to get this wet, where I'm going to put my iron color, which I'm using burnt sienna. Such a useful use such a useful color in your tool, your paint kit. You know, one thing I did forget to do, I'm going to go back, even though this is damp, I'm going to use the graphite. I'm going to add just some suggested, see those are little, probably less rock falls, and make sure that I remember there's kind of a herringbone in here. And then this M shape has just slightly scribe some, these are like rock falls. There, that I forgot to do that texture, and I think that will really help us. Now I can go in, and it's still damp enough. Let me clean my palette. I'm just going to get some pure burnt sienna. And we might drop in some more orangey stuff. Orangey stuff. Some more really bright orange on top to highlight. But you can see it's even blooming a lot. It's okay for now. Let's let it bloom. Use different amounts so we don't just color it all the same. We're going to come back and highlight, but try to fill as much as you can. And remember, trees are going to go on in here too. So we have some over here. And then we have some, this is a patch in here. Oop. Okay. Want to add more of those streaks, and the brighter colors start to go in, and add that with a just really pure looks like really a lot of color in here. Now let's mix some green. I'm going to go really, really, really dark green. So I'm going to use indanthrone blue. So use a really, really dark green. Adding my yellow to that. And you really want it really dark. And then you take advantage of like a really small brush. I actually think I'm going back to I might use the water brush because it has a tiny little tip. And so we're going to, let's start over here and just add our trees, and don't worry too much. If these are going to bleed a little bit. and we're going to have to come back and darken it. That's still pretty wet. But you can see here how we do it. Pretty damp, so it's bleeding. I'm not getting super defined trees. And I can come back and use even darker, almost pure pigment to define that. All right, so this actually is smooth because it's the edge. And same with this here. And I'm going to less detail the farther away it is. Remember, that helps. The only thing I'm hating about this water brush is this one poops a lot. So it's too watery. That's why I'm not getting super thick paint. Love-hate relationship with these things, isn't it? All right, you see the gist of what we're doing here. Now I can go back here since it's drier, define that a little better. And it would, be really easy just to get totally lost in this. Notice the foreground, then this is just a suggestion. So you don't have to do the whole thing. And you might even want to just draw the edge down so it's a fade. Same with over here. Because our detail is this. And if you have time, you can go in and fill in more trees here. But again, the focus is this, so don't get too crazy with that. But you get the gist of how to capture these landscapes now. Beautiful, beautiful colors. And now we've really, I think, captured kind of the essence of this really quickly. And we can go in and refine it and add some detail, but don't get too crazy. Because this is field sketching. It's not studio stuff. So just don't sweat it too much. Enjoy the process and the learning and what you've learned about the this really cool geologic process here, which we want to talk about and label. So I'm going to zoom out so we can, as I said, this is the Platoro caldera complex. So I need to write on that. So I'm going to cover it with something. I need because I don't want to put my hand on it. Okay, so this is number 3. And this is Alamosa Canyon. Colorado, the Platoro caldera complex. And so these are what they call these is monzonite pluton. A pluton is a post collapse of the caldera, and it's an intrusion that is in the middle geologically. It takes forever, but it's a collapse of an intrusion of up into the surface layers. So the iron rich soil is associated with the intrusive magnetism, it's called. So that's where the red comes from. It's oxidizing iron that's been pushed up through this volcanic process. And as it weathers and breaks down in this collapse, that's what we're seeing. So we can say this is a monzonite, which is igneous. So monzonite is an igneous rock pluton. And a pluton is simply an intrusive igneous rock. And there's dikes in here too, dikes being more skinny, literally like, what's a good way to describe it? Like a wall that's pushed up through the landscape. So it's, what do we want to say? These are so complicated. So the iron is associated with oh, what are we saying? I lost my, there it is. Iron-rich hydrothermal mineralization. And this is about, let's say, 30 to 2.8. Oh, excuse me, 28.8 million years ago. And I think as we, if we're in the field, we would come back and I'll come back later as I refine everything. I can add just a little bit more detail with the pen, and that will really make it pop. But I think what we want to do is move on because we need to get to number 4, which is still in the West, back to Arizona, because I couldn't do this without featuring our Grand Canyon. However, we're going to do something a little bit different. So here we're zooming in over the South Rim, beyond Moran Point, down to the Colorado River, to the bottom layers of the canyon. And what we're going to be looking at is a really interesting location that represents a really great view of a fault line. And then we can see some interesting geologic features. This is what we're looking at here. So we just came down off the rim, and back where we were viewing like from a bird's eye view. Now we're standing across from it and we're looking at this really cool fault and the Grand Canyon supergroup complex of geology. And I'm going to show you a chart in a minute that sort of gives you a bigger picture of what this all means. But here we can see all these layers. And that's what the Grand Canyon is made of. It's layers and layers and layers. And the fault that moved, you can see where it absolutely shifted in the landscape. So visually cool. So let's look at real quick. This is what we're looking at. We're standing more or less across and looking at toward this complex here, which is the Shinuma Sandstone, Hakatai Shale, and the Bass Formation. So this is what we're looking at straight on, and the fault is within these formations here. So going back, the whole process was formed about 2 billion years ago when igneous and metamorphic rocks laid down. That comprises the inner gorge, and then deposited on top of that over billions of years, millions of years, sedimentary rock, all those shales and limestones laid down over 30 to 70 million years ago. Then Colorado Plateau uplifted, and it uplifted flat. So that really was an astonishing thing. You can see it on satellite views. Just the Colorado Plateau is this huge flat uplift. Then the Colorado River started the down cutting, and that's how we get to see all these cool layers. It took millions of years, 5 to 6 million years. Then at some point, a thrust fault, not a joint, a fault, they're two different things, shifted these layers. And there's this great phrase called the great unconformity, which is this yellow line, which means that they're rocks of completely different age in a place that was completely unexpected. So really fun to see that. We are going to make a stab at sketching this, and it's going to be hard. So be try not to get too how do we want to say, don't get too like bogged down in wanting to draw every single solitary thing. What I recommend is let's go ahead and draw a box, a bounding box, because that will let us get our brain around this a little easier. Because we're taking a snapshot. We're not going to try to draw the whole thing. Uh-oh. Someone's using a little, that was very strange. I have no idea what that was. It was one of those reaction things. Zoom must have updated. That was either me or somebody. That was a thumbs down. Oh my, that was funny. Zoom weirdness. Okay. What I recommend, let's draw the fault. And now I'm going to sketch the fault, and I'm going to pull it over farther. I'm not going to sketch a whole lot of the part to the right, because the fault is what I'm interested in. So I'm going to be zooming in here by first sketching the fault and then drawing from there. Yeah.
Can you draw just a little bit darker?
Oh, yeah, it'll make the final drawing weird, but no problem. So just try to sketch the fault.
Thanks.
If I have to erase it, I'll, change it a little. That's okay. Remember, we're not trying to draw a complete, perfect thing. You're in the field. You want to sketch this. It's really cool. Okay, so let's then do the center sedimentary layer, the Bass limestone, because then we can build everything off that. So coming down here, let's just sketch out. Oops, got off a little. I'm going to do it light at first until I'm happy with my where I'm putting it. Okay. This kind of falls off here. And that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not going to draw everything. So here's our vast limestone. And then don't forget, it starts up here, not parallel, because this is, so I'm going to give myself, I'm going to write in Bass here so I keep track of what I'm doing. And then on top of this, I'm going to go ahead and sketch oops. Yeah. Make sure I got this right. Okay, yeah. I'm sketching the Hakkatai shale. And there are actually two parts that come down. This is the part in the foreground. And then it rises up into the Shinumo quartzite. Here, and then that actually raised up there. So this is the Hakkatai, and this is the Shinumo. And then down here, we're going to draw in the Cardenas lava sill. You see how I'm just simplifying here as much as I can? And then I'm just going to do a representation of the unconformity, which kind of does this thing here. And then the rest, I'm just going to show that this is sloping down. We had Cardenas. This is more Bass limestone kind of in between. And we have the rate unconformity. I love that word. We'll call this the GU. And then back here, if you want to add it, you can also leave it off because from where you're standing, you know, it could be a different aspect. But if you wanted to, oops, that didn't quite work, show the background. Again, I think that kind of complicates it more than I would want to. So if I were sketching in the field, I'd probably leave that off. All right, so let's get some color on here. Oh, no, first I want to add some texture real quick. Just bearing in mind, I don't have a ton of time because, we're sketching in the field. So we don't have to be super, you want to just show the texture as much as you can, shapes if you can, where it bulges or recedes. The bass has these blocks, so I'm just using hash to indicate that there are blocks in that. Like this part over here has a lot of, it bulges out.
Excuse me, Roseann.
Yeah.
Roseann, I'm sorry. Why did you decide to use a bounding box on this illustration versus the illustration above?
Oh, good question. I just decided this is a softer landscape here. It was easier to just kind of flow into a blur on the edges. And it's not as complicated. I could focus on the shapes right here.
Hmm.
But I find this so complicated and difficult that I thought it would be better to anchor myself. And by doing a bounding box and choosing one central point, which for me was the fault, then I could do some sketching that that I could not get lost in too many details. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Great. Thank you very much.
Just add some scree slope direction here. This is a very fast sketch, so we'll have to refine things later. This stuff is not, it's pretty complicated and not easy, so give yourself a break, We're only giving, I'm only giving us 15 minutes per, which is not probably enough for something that complicated, but I decided to add it anyway, so we can all work on it later. But I'm going to add some, just a little bit of color to start me out. That's a little more pink, so I'm going to throw in some of the magenta to the burnt sienna, which is going to give us more of that Grand Canyon-y color, pinky red. And so the bath is that gorgeous color. And then the color helps us see those really cool layers, and then that fault, which is so super cool. Can you imagine just sitting here on the trail, looking at this and just, being amazed and sketching this on site. I'm throwing in some very pale color here. I want it to look a little different than the bath. And then on top of it, I can put the brighter color later. And then you're going to we'll want to mix some browns. And if you don't know, a quick way to get a really nice brown, I mean, brown is like the weirdest color to have in your palette, right? So if you mix your 3 primaries, I know it seems really weird, but you can get some really nice browns. Now I wanted literally a dirty brown. So this Cardanus, and I'm going to try to leave a little white strip because there appears to be some limestone in there. In between the layers. You see that's sneaking out. There's also I think it's an asbestos mine, right? Now I can't remember, just around the corner. All right, so looking at the time here. For bass. Yeah, so we would throw in, if you just want to get some color in, I have this, I'm just going to very messy, and then I'll come back and oops, I wanted more of I added some burnt sienna. And so we'll play with this later. So I definitely ran out of time on this one. But you can use your watercolor to get more texture. Since I've got this color, I'm going to do a base layer of the Shinumo, and I'll come back and I'll fix those labels, put them in ink, and probably do some edges with ink and put in my sky. Didn't even have time I did a lot of talking on this one because it's so cool, but this gives you an idea of how you can block out a portion of a landscape and then do this really complicated drawing in your field notes. So this is the Grand Canyon. And what we want to, this is right, Grand Canyon Supergroup. And then we'll want to label the fault. So what we're going to, oh, see, that's still too wet, but what we want to do is put an arrow this way and an arrow this way, showing the fault. And this is the fault line. So they're like that, because that's what this illustration is wanting to show. Like that. Now, when this dries, I can go back, add detail with pen, make the labels in pen, do my bounding box. If I do it right now, it's just going to go meh because it's damp, but that's okay. We're going to move on because it's after 10 and we still have 4 more to go. Can you believe it? I picked some hard ones. Why do I do this? Because it's fun. Okay, oops, got to go through that again. Okay. Yes, we're still in the West. This is a fun one. Look at how gorgeous this is. Those of you who are here in Arizona recognize this as Petrified Forest National. It's a national park now. And it is one of my favorite places to go. It is gorgeous. Yes, it's now a national park. And let me move my little talking head out of the way. Sorry about that. Actually, let me do away with it for a moment. These are petrified trees, and they comprise quartz colored by iron, carbon, and manganese. So about 200 million years ago, trees, a huge forest of trees, was carried away by a massive flood, and they were quickly covered in a huge amount of sediment. Because there was very little, because no oxygen left when the sediment covered them, the minerals, which was mostly silica, dissolved from volcanic ash. So you can imagine this was formed during some violent geologic event. The minerals are absorbed into the porous wood over hundreds of thousands of years, million years, replacing organic material with crystals like quartz. Purple amethyst is in there, citrine, and smoky quartz. And it's really hard, 7 to 8 on the Mohs scale. it looks like someone went in and chainsawed these, but it's actually just at some point over millions of years, the pressure, they were all laying on flat. But as landforms changed, they just cracked. It's very brittle. So super beautiful. And let's see. Come on. No, no, no. There we go. So let's draw petrified wood. Maybe this will catch us up because we don't need to be as detailed. This is fun. I'm going to go straight with pen on this one. I don't mind. I can do I kind of like that better pencil, harder for you guys to see. And there's not a lot of detail that I'm going to mess up or get proportions wrong. So I'm going to put my kind of a one log here, one section. Let's start with do a messy sort of, cross section log here. And we're going to, you can draw it in situ, or you can just make it float on your page. It's up to you. Meaning you can draw the substrate, or you can just draw it floating like I am. And don't forget, we'll be using color to enhance all this. There are lots of breaks and, where the bark was replaced by the minerals. And then I think what I'll do is just to show, let's see, this is about, we'll just call this, I'm not actually sure exactly how big these were big. Oh, the species they think some of these are, and there are lots of different species, but they think these are Araucarioxylon arizonicum, they called it, related to the Araucaria trees that are still growing in the far end of South America, which I've seen, and they're really cool. So that's a fun little, that there are these ancient relics still out there. Just use lots of messy lines, and then we'll zero in on the color. But what I'd like to do is draw, okay, oh, I got myself totally sidetracked. So that we're going to call this like 3-foot diameter. Because I'm really just guessing. And then to show kind of context, I'm going to just do a quick sketch of what it was like lying there. So where you have, so this was the tree. And in this case, then I'm going to put the substrate. But what I'm going to do is show, okay, it's broken there. It's cracked there. Because that's what the landscape looks like. So this is, we're on number 5. And these are petrified trees. in Arizona. And you can put the national park if you want. And what we want to say it was 200 million years ago, a forest swept away in flood. And it was buried and silica rich. Water and soil is replaced organic matter. Oops, or I forgot the G. And that it's quartz. There's even amethyst. And citrine. Very cool. So let's get splash some color in there. Just gonna get that kind of, I've used up that brown to sort of get the dirty look. And now really, really watery burnt sienna. And remember, you can really darken up the burnt sienna with the indanthrone blue. So I'm making a big mottled mess of color here, which is going to be then, we're going to put it directly in here. I'm just letting it all flow together. Try to leave some bright spots too. See how wet, this is lots of wet and wet. And looks like it's really much darker on this side. But you can color it any way you like. I think that's going to dry nicely and we can refine that. I'm going to leave the sketch pretty much alone. Oh, come on, focus. I'm going to let that dry. It's wet and it's bleeding off a little bit. But when it's damp like this, it wouldn't be a bad time to go in with your ink and refine some of those rings. Maybe too damp. We'll see what happens. Probably way, mine's a little too damp, so they're getting a little fatter than I'd like. But that's fun. All right. We're catching up time here. And let's find out where we're going next. Turn back the talking head. Okay. All right. Guess what? We're still in the West. And this is a super fun location. This is in the Bighorns of Wyoming. And this is a massive site of thousands of tracks of theropods, which is this cool kind of bipedal dinosaur, very similar to our guy before. And you can find the tracks all over in this limestone. Fascinating. So they think it was a shoreline. Well, they know it was a shoreline of an ocean. Over 1,000 tracks have been recorded. And this happened. So this is really actually a pretty rare site in terms of the age. Middle Jurassic, there's very few of these types of track sites from the Jurassic. So this is a really rare, awesome place. It's a small to medium-sized bipedal dinosaur, probably carnivorous theropods. They're not positive. And these range from 8 to 28 centimeters long with 3 toes. And some of them do show the back claw. They call it a heel. I'm not sure that's what it would be called. And sometimes the claws at the front, but I suspect what it had was more not a heel, but probably a claw, dew claw kind of thing. Just guessing. And then this was kind of fun in a goofy science way. They called the other pock marks and things in the sand are officially known as amorphous blobs. That's official. So you can write that one down. All right. Let's see, transferring to here and sketching a fossil track, which is really fun in limestone. Now, in this case, I think I will use a combination of graphite, regular graphite, and the water-soluble graphite. And then use that for some shading. So what we want to do is I'm just going to lightly sketch this. Oops, let me make that bigger for us. I'm lightly sketching this shape. Now, it has like, that's what the shape looked like to me. You can see it's more indented here. And the weight, it's deeper here, so more weight forward on the toe. So we want to show that. And then the second one on the right comes off like so. Again, it's kind of got this shape like that. And the other one, we're just going to have to, it's not quite as distinct. Like so. And then if we use our, actually, I'm going to, yeah, that was right. I think I've got a little bit more, I think this goes down a little more. It's just looking at that. These are a little bit closer. So you're thinking about how it's walking. Proportionally, this is a little taller. Then if we get our water soluble, or you can use a water soluble pen, then we can do some shading. just very lightly. Or use your pencil or use some dark watercolor. And then we can come in. See how nicely that works. But you could do the same thing with water soluble pen. And if you want to add some texture, like to define the landscape or the sandstone, we can add those amorphous blobs. Because come on, we have to add an amorphous blob. So there's a flaw there. So we're just going to leave that and call it one of the amorphous blobs. Like, can I do this? I haven't tried to do this like wet and wet. Just to get some texture.
How big is that track?
So I would call that, I'm going to call about 8 inches, judging by the shoe. Of total track top, like tip of the from here. We'll put a scale. Thank you for reminding me of that. Put a scale on the side here. Let's see. What do we want to use? Keep using this just to keep texture. Again, you could do this with any number of tools. So when I say scale, what we usually do is you'll want to put something like this. About 8 inches. And so this is our dinosaur, I'm just going to call it dinosaur track. And this was at Red Gulch in the Bighorn Basin, Wyoming. It's on BLM land. And almost no one stops here. It's very strange. It's in the middle of nowhere. So this is limestone. And they were probably, it's guess, that they were carnivorous theropods. And there were thousands, 1,000 plus tracks on an old, see, they thought it was a shoreline. And they were all going the same direction. At a delta. In fact, that would be kind of fun. This is still too wet, but you might want to say all same direction, which was interesting. So that's one way to quickly record this type of track. I'm trying to remove some of that graphite. I was drawing harder than I normally would, so you could see it, but I think that works. So very cool. Getting a lot of variety this time. We've got our Grand Canyon supergroup. We've got petrified trees. We've got fossils. What do we have next? Yay, she left the West. Amazing. We're going to New York. And we're going to practice a new type of formation and landscape drawing. This is the beautiful, oh, I'm probably going to butcher the name, Tuffanock Falls State Park in New York. This is a really cool geology. Say it again.
Taganic.
See, I butchered it. Taganic. I never would have thought that was a hard G. That's awesome. Thank you. Yay. Look at this beautiful in the fall. Imagine what this looks like. It's huge. Oh, look at that. Those are tiny little people, right? Okay. Just to give it some scale. That's what it looks like in the fall. And this is part of the Finger Lakes. So here's Toronto, New York, Syracuse. Here's a clean view of the Finger Lakes. Isn't that cool? It looks to me like a bear claw marks. I love that. So it's sedimentary rock. Cuts through the largest, it's the tallest waterfall in New York. And the creek feeds Cayuga Lake, one of those Finger Lakes. The sedimentary rocks formed largely from eroded rock left over from previous orogenies, mountain building episodes, the Silurian and the Devonian. And then the Pleistocene glaciation happened over and over, and they receded and came back, and receded and came back. Tons of glacial scour, multiple events, which has a cool name, Milankovitch cycles. Eventually, about 10,000 years ago, was the final retreat, and the glaciers had carved those finger lakes, and at the base of them left big moraine piles, debris piles, which is what formed the lakes, allowed them to fill up. Super fun. And so let's get this set up. I'm going to move my camera. All right. Now, this is a tough one because it's going to be super tempting to get like totally detailed. But we're going to go with shapes. And I'm going to sketch with the pencil so I can get the proportions right. Okay. So figure out where you want your waterfall to be. And let's make that the centerpiece. It doesn't even want to focus. Come on. Come on, focus. There we go. I normally would not sketch it that dark. Okay, bring your waterfall down. Remember, we're gotta have some splash zone. And then I just made some little dots. Then give yourself, sketch a bit of the pool. Just start it out. Don't worry about it yet too much. Now, coming back to the top of the waterfall, you've got, I'm just putting some dots to remind myself. We got to leave some of the creek going back. But then let's pull these shapes up. Draw those rock shapes. Trees are going to be obscuring the top, so don't worry too much about that. Oops, bring that down. All right, and now I'm going from about halfway up. Start reminding yourself that there's some sedimentary layers in here that you want to show. And that helps you also keep this curve going. Okay. Don't worry too much about all the little details yet. Got that crack down there. Now, remind yourself, we're going to have some trees here. Just to, so you don't fill that in accidentally. And again, let's get those sedimentary. Now those are can have some dips in them later. You can add the detail, but for now, just make sure that's helping you make this look curved. Don't get too bogged down yet in all the details. So here's our pool. And then there's a little bridge. Probably made that a little bit too big. But I also want to put little tiny figures on it. Because there's a walking path. And just little tiny, my tiny little people. Come back later with a pen and add heads or something. All right. And then this is going to, we'll have green coming down. And don't forget, we have our trees. I'm going to give myself just something to aim for. Like so. Okay. So when you're adding your color, you want to be really careful not to color in the white on the waterfall. Okay. So I think what I'll do is throw in some just base gray and try to get some of the stripes and define some of the dark. Then while that's drying, I'm going to put in the green. You can see how far I can get on that. Let's make some pretty gray. Let's see, I think I'll use, I completely misplaced my other, there it is, my other brush. Some of it is blue gray and some of it is brown or gray. So I'm doing a bit of both. And I'm going to get it partly wet so I don't get a lot of hard edges. And don't forget, we want to leave some for bright green over here. Okay, let's try to get as much stripies as you can, although it's hard to go quickly. Try it. Let's compare this side. I'm not going to do wet and wet and see if I can get better stripes. Although I do want more wet over here because the very dark where it's got the splash. I don't want it super hard edge. Let's see. This water is going to be a challenge, isn't it? Now we have a little bit of the gray. I'm going to just do a few really, you want to get your waterfall defined a little bit. All right, I'm leaving that. I can make some green. Well, it's going to be pen work that gives me the best definition here because I didn't have time or the inclination to spend a ton of time defining that with just watercolor, which is absolutely can be done, but you would need to do layer upon layer, let it dry, glaze over. So there's lots of different green shades in there. Oops. So you can see I'm mixing a really wide range from bright down there to really dark. And I'm going to go really messy on the trees. put some of the brighter in first. And then we'll use different darker colors later to refine, make depth. I'm going really fast. And then we can start reminding ourselves where we want to have our green here. And that water has green in it too, so that's really interesting. Well, this is just going to be a place marker here for this part, because I'm going to have to let this dry and do our final one and then come back. But that should get us started. I think I'll pull the trees to the edge of the creek there, because the little bridge actually just goes directly into the trees. So that's a start. There's a lot of algae in that pool, so you might, while you have a little really nice green, we can get this really, really wet and then drop in some of that green and let it dry very pale. And we'll see how that looks after that. But that's a start. We'll work on refining, adding detail, darks, and then we'll have a really nice sketch of this interesting formation. We'll use darks to get rid of this edge here and refine the rock, use line work, add your clouds and sky. But we have one more to do. Oops, I forgot the label. Let's get that label in. So this is number 7. So Taughannock, did I get it right?
Taughannock.
Taughannock, thank you. I'm apparently not a fast learner on that. And we'll not want to forget we'll come back and add more details. Oh, I just did a print here. I pulled off some of the paint because I was wanting to write on it. We're going to our final destination. Okay, I sort of went back west. This is so fun. I was so excited to learn about these. This is Crater of Diamond State Park in Arkansas. And it's a park you can go to and they give you all the supplies or you rent them and you can go collect, if you're lucky, find diamonds. Those are diamonds that were found and you can keep them. Over the years, there's been some very famous ones. The Strawn Wagner was one of the most flawless diamonds ever discovered anywhere in the world. And then the Uncle Sam diamond is this one. It was huge, 40.23 carats, if you can believe that. So, of course, let's do some geology here. The diamond is the solid form of carbon, and it is a mineral with octahedral crystal habit, they call it. The highest hardness and thermal conductivity of any natural material. Most are 1 billion to 3.5 billion years old and were formed in the mantle of 150 miles or so down in the earth and carried to the surface in eruptions. They're most commonly found in deposits of igneous rocks known as kimberlites and lamproids. Only a fraction of diamonds in the world, though, are gem quality. However, that supply is so highly managed, it creates the illusion of scarcity, and that's what makes the prices go crazy. So pick which one you would like to sketch. Either the raw yellow diamond, which was very common at the Crater of Diamonds State Park, or take a stab at the faceted one. That would take a lot of work. I'm going to do a quick one of the raw diamond. So what you want to do is get a rough shape in. And there's kind of a ridge here, like so. And kind of an edge along here that I want to define, like that. And then I'm going to want to probably do the shadow as well. The way I'm going to do this, make sure I've got all the green off my palette so we don't end up with a green diamond instead of a yellow. So the trick here, make sure you reserve those really bright spots. I'm going in with getting it wet. Probably got it too wet. Let's see if I can, I don't know if I have a clean enough tissue. Oh, well, while I mix the yellow, it'll probably be fine. So take some pure yellow. This is a nice transparent yellow. Very, very pale at first. Just mix it super pale. And let's, again, don't forget to leave those hot spot or bright, yeah, hot spots, bright spots. But let it bleed as much as you can. You don't want hard edges. Now, while that's there, I'm going to warm up this very neutral yellow with just a tiny bit of burnt sienna, but that's a opaque color, so I want to be careful with that. I'm also going to drop in just a tiny bit of the magenta, which will make it a little brighter and not be quite so opaque. And the reason is I want some warm spots. Not a lot. But it has a lot of variation, this diamond. So darken down here, especially where those edges are. And normally I wouldn't leave those edges showing like that, but I want to demonstrate how we're going to do this. Now, while that's doing that, how do we get that interesting, that dark inclusion? Now, if you look at the inclusion closely, it's kind of a glowing bluish color. So it's a purpley blue, like a bruise. It's kind of got a lot of mottling. So I'm going to mix kind of a dark purple. I have to be really careful with this. And I'm going to start very carefully dropping that in as it dries, just to start defining that feature. See there, comes up here. It's got kind of a hard edge here. There's a bright spot there that I'm going to leave. Whoop. Now, when it does that, you can clean your brush off and fix it. Oops, brush is too dry. Now I have a thirsty brush, so it was removing instead of adding. Okay, come on, more blue.
Excuse me, Roseann.
Yeah.
Do you remember the size of that brush that you're using now?
You know, the Isabay never classified the size. It's just their one travel brush. So Rosemary and Co. has a similar one. And I don't know the size.
It definitely looks like a perfect size.
I love it, but they're really hard to find now, unfortunately. So you want to leave some hot spots here, and then this is filling in. And I want that to dry though, because if I do much more to that, it's going to get really wonky. But before I do that, I'm going to drop in, see the pure manganese, just the tiniest bit. You see where the blue is?
I hope I'm not intruding.
Sure.
I have a same sort size pencil. It's a Da Vinci
Ah,
Casanillo, and it has number 2 on it.
excellent. That is great. Oh, Da Vinci makes lovely, lovely. Okay, so that's going to dry, and then what we're going to do is come back and darken parts of it with a really super dark, purpley, really dark, purple, and with a little bit of blue. So it doesn't look black. You don't want that. And then we want to come back and add more of the flaws and things. It's too late for me to erase this. Once you paint over pencil, it's really hard to get it off. But that was just to show you how to make sure you had planes. You doing it yourself, make sure it's really, really light. So this is our diamond. Yay. This was these are all challenging. And that's the point, is stretching ourselves and learning new techniques and ways to depict things. When we come back to this, we will darken around here, but leave that bright spot. So we're going to put some golden yellow here, make sure there's it shows the facets. It's not really faceted, but it has planes, and get some texture in there. So let's write just a tiny bit here, and then we'll switch to shares. So these are 1 to 3.5 billion years old. Whoa. And 150 or so, just approximate miles in the mantle deep. And carried to surface in eruptions. And if you want to add more details, oh, the other thing, I can't do it right now, but the thing you're going to absolutely want to do is make sure you show the shadow, and that will make the glow happen at the end. So get your gem finished, and then add a sharp, whoa, I just about painted on top of that. Add a sharp edge and shadow down here, and that will just really make it pop. So don't forget to continue to add your details. It'll be in the recording. You can come back, but let's see what everybody's done. I'm going to stop the share now and go to gallery view. And if you'd like to share your rocks and minerals and rocks, fossils, and formations, use the raise hand feature and I'll spotlight you. Come on, who wants to go? Don't be shy.
Is it possible?
It's always funny. It always takes like 10 minutes. But okay, Mandy, go. So turn your video on and I can spotlight you. Okay, let me spotlight. Bing. Oops. Oh, that is so cute. Oh, fantastic. I love that. Well done on those. I love your screensaver, or your background, how you keep disappearing into the ocean. Nice. There it is. Hold it there. Good job. Well done. Oh, I love the tracks too. Nicely done. You got far. Yeah. These were hard. We are really pushing it, right? So thank you, Mandy. Let's see. Kim. Let's see. Ready? All right. Oh, you're muted, I think.
Captivated by the Vivianite.
Yay. Oh, isn't it cool? Should we go on a Vivianite expedition? I think we should. Oh my gosh. I'm serious. Like, I want to go lead a field arts workshop up there and then make paint from the Vivianite. Wouldn't that be awesome? Oh, super cool. I'm actually looking into it. I wasn't kidding. Blue in a natural pigment is like a holy grail, right? You can get the greens, the turquoises, but blues in a natural mineral pigment. Whoa, super cool. Who else wants to share? Teresa, yay. There we go. I think you accidentally turned your video off. There we go. And
Okay.
now we got it.
Okay, so let's see. So this is, I don't know if you can see this. My lighting is pretty bad, but here's my first one.
It's hard to see if you just, maybe keep holding it steady. It'll focus.
If I can, I'll try. Let's see. How's
hard. I can
that?
see
There's
the
my
blue.
first one. Okay,
Nice.
and then there's my fossil.
Oh, good
Okay.
definition.
Yeah, the caudal fossil. And then I have one more, let's see, the petrified forest.
Oh, great.
And then this one isn't that great, but I thought it was really fun.
They're
And
hard
that's
to do. It's worth practicing though. It's the same technique you would use for, a fresh animal track, right? But it's worth practicing for sure. Thank you. Well, this has been really fun. And oops, let me lower Teresa's hand. We are heading to South America next time, and the end of April probably. And it's going to be fun. I think I'm going to try to do it in one go. Not in two parts like North America. We'll see how crazy it is. So I'll be sending that out, and I'll send out the oh, Judy wants to share. So let me spotlight Judy, and then we'll wrap up. Look at that. Awesome. Oh, nice landscape. Very well done. Nice. Oh, I like the way you did the oh, you got far. Look at that. I like the way you did the Grand Canyon. That's really cool. And yeah, everybody's going to take a while to finish that.
Yeah, and I would like some more information on that one. And there's my
yeah. Oh, good start. again, we're all gonna have to take some time this afternoon and go back and refine.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Yeah, it gives you an idea of just what we can do in the field for when we're want to do these captures. I have so much fun doing these. If you enjoyed it, I always appreciate the tip jar. I put that in the chat, the link, and we take lots of different credit cards. Call me or to email me if you'd rather do PayPal or something. Any amount's helpful. I spend hours preparing for these, as you know, and it's so much fun. So have a wonderful rest of the weekend. I think I'm going to see some of you Monday. Some of you are coming to the Field Arts Boot Camp that starts Monday, so we will see you there. And hopefully some of you can join me sometime. I try to hold them all over the country, so thank you all. That was fun. Happy formation, fossil and rock drawing. Take care. Oh, Michigan. Yeah, I've actually been looking in Michigan, believe it or not. I want to go to no, everyone ignores the middle of the country. It's crazy. Nice to see you, Muffin. I don't see you, but I see your chat. Let's catch up, you and Rod. Let's catch up sometime. Lot to talk about. Bye.